Yeah, I'll give you some video footage of how to do this again, since I've done it enough times. On the heads, I already took off, didn't show everything or a full detailed one. On the actual heads, I loosened all these to 1/2-inch bolts on the rocker arms. Loosened all those, pulled all the push rods, got those stashed away so they're out of my way. Also, this block is filthy on the inside, so I think I can do it a lot better by cleaning all this up. Then you have an 11/16 bolt head for the actual cylinder heads on a 302 or 5.0. So all I'm doing, a lot of people like taking these apart the right way and using a hand wrench or a ratchet. Going through them all, feeling all the threads, make sure everything comes apart proper. I agree, I think that's a great idea. If you were reusing all of this stuff, I'm not using these heads. I am using the block and the crank. Outside of that, I don't really care all that much. So on disassembly, I don't care nearly as much as I would on reassembly. But I'm also going to chase all these threads with my chase tool. Chase kit, make sure everything's nice and clean going back together. And just use the appropriate lubrication, putting everything back together. Now, break them on 3. And just muscle them up. These things are heavy. Sometimes the gasket comes too, which is fine. Not even looking at the ports because I don't care that much. But like I said, this is first glance. I'm looking through the phone, so we're looking at the same thing. A little bit of moisture and water, it looks like it's got in there. Just dirty, dirty, dirty. So, there's that. Head gasket's off. I gotta clean and scrape all the gasket surfaces, obviously, do all the motor prep for reassembly. But, to rebuild this from this juncture, I never pulled the dog bones or all the lifters. So these are filthy. This whole galley is filthy. I'm going to take apart those lifters, clean all those, put them back together. Because I would much rather run factory lifters for the time being on this block, especially if it's going to be a roller cam. Run the factory lifters. I did not pull the camshaft yet or check the rod bearings, but now I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to pull one main, one rod bearing, take a quick glance. As long as they're in decent shape, maybe we'll reuse them. I know it's not the right way to do it, especially going this far into the build. But my goal is getting all of this back together. If they're roached, maybe order new ones, make a decision from there. If they're mediocre, probably going to send it. It's not the right way to do it, but I don't have the time. It's more of a time concern than anything else. Wait on turning the camera back on, but pulled the one main on the end. It took the end cap out. One. Yeah, not as good as I'd like it to be. Do a full freshen up. Really not that bad. Definitely some distortion, definitely some color changes. No major grooves. In all honesty, I know the camera's not going to pick this up. You can see it, but the grooves are not nearly as bad. I'm rubbing, my nails are kind of long right now too. Longer than usual, but no major grooves there. Thrust surface, definitely worn. Again, a slight groove on the center of that one. Alright, now I gotta price some stuff out because these bearings aren't as healthy as I want them to be. But the other option real quick, I'm gonna get all of the internet pissed off at me for this one, but let's see what we got here. Factory Ford C50E 6A338-AB. So it is a standard bore. We're gonna get super sketchy here. I gotta drop the oil pan on the other motor and then take a look at what those bearings look like after eating a lifter. So all I did now is just take off a random rod bearing. We're all looking at this together. A little bit of wear on the bearing surface. We're just barely down to the copper here. You can kind of feel that groove, but I think it's runnable. Again, if I was building this motor from scratch, none of this. Everything would most likely go to a machine shop, most likely get repaired, get everything set proper. But for down and dirty one, this is what it is. I'm racing time, make it run, fix it later. Not usually my go-to attitude, but on something like this, running out of options, running out of time. So I will go through and disassemble the whole motor now. If I can get, as long as I can get all the parts, looks like we're doing a quick down and dirty, freshen up rebuild. Well, we're back. It's the next day. Thunderstorms outside, on and off, patchy rain. Not the greatest. However, we're dry in the garage. I started messing around with this, drained the oil out of this block, ran out of daylight, ran out of time and motivation yesterday. But got the oil drained out of this. I'm going to flip this over, pull the oil pan, and investigate how catastrophically bad the cam is. Still have not taken the front dress off, so I still got to do that as well. But on the old block, I pulled those two caps. They have wear. Not worn out completely, not terrible. I can see a little bit of the copper showing through, but overall, pretty decent shape. What I'm going to do now, I think I'm going to end up ordering a bearing and gasket kit. Started pricing it out. It's like 250, 260 bucks for mains, rod bearings, and basically everything except the cam bearings, which on the first one I haven't investigated too much further than this. There's a little bit of oil staining, but if I scratch this at all with my fingernail, the stain comes right off. So the cam bearings are actually in really good shape. I've never had a motor that had good cam bearings. I've been in really bad luck with those. They've always been beat to crap or falling apart. This motor, the cam bearing shell actually separated from the steel backing when I took this apart, so I freshened this one up. Like I said, everything was okay. I'm not going to swap the cam bearings, but I will do mains and rod bearings while this is all apart right here. It just makes more sense to do that. Reseal the front and the back. It is nice. I get a one-piece main switching over to a roller block. Yell at me all you want. Right now, I'm honestly thinking, and again, this is before I pull the oil pan on the one that just ate the cam. If I pull the oil pan, I'll pop the mains and the rods out of this motor. Take a look. They've got 40 minutes of runtime on them. If they're not super scratched and gouged, they might go back in this. If this was a daily driver, I would never recommend doing that. I would just throw fresh bearings in it. This is going to be in and out of the car several times. I anticipate that. I know I'm going to be changing a ton of things on this. If I can just get it running and driving that way, we might run it. The other option is I will order new bearings on this. That'll be a couple days before those get here because I can't get them through the parts store. I can get like half of them through the parts store, but I can just order a full kit. I think I priced it out today. It was like $269 through Summit for like a full engine rebuild. It comes with main bearings, rod bearings, all of the gaskets that I need. I don't need all of them. I have a ton in this giant pile of stuff that's taking over my garage. They should be going on the car pile. Keeps expanding every day because all the stuff that I wanted to put on has to start coming off, which sucks. But whatever. It is what it is. If I order the bearing gasket set, I don't mind having extra gaskets at all. We have the truck's got a 302, the van's got a 302, Falcon's going to have a 5.0. Well, I mean, they're all 5.0s, but same thing. Everything's pretty much the same except for the valve train and the roller and dipstick tubes and minute details, but hard parts are all the same. Set you guys up. I'll flip this over, tear apart the oil pan. I'm just running out of space. I'm out of table space. I got Harley stuff over there that I need to put back together, and I'm just running out of time because this Falcon was not supposed to take that long. Car stuff is fun, but that's where we're at. Let me get you guys set up, and I'll figure out which one of these motors I'm going to dissect first. Decided I'm doing this one first because any of the parts I need to order are going to be dictated by what I find on the inside of this. So I'll just turn the block over and spilled all of the water that was on the inside, which will happen every single time you play around with these. Luckily, I didn't put coolant in it. It is actually just water, so plus whatever residual, but that doesn't matter. So let me start blasting this oil pan apart, just run around the oil pan, take all the bolts off. I did use a fancy gasket, so the oil pan gasket will get recycled on this. And like I said, if I do end up buying a new bearing kit, when I took this one apart, which is the big part, took this apart, they are standard sizes on everything. which means that all of the parts in this motor, which is also standard on the crank, should be the same as this, if I remember correctly. There's a good chance I'm wrong and we're using 10 or 20 under on this crank. I'll find out as soon as I rip this apart. Either way, at this juncture, I want to tear this block entirely apart, go through everything, pop out the coolant caps, clear everything out, rehone the cylinders. Back to this motor. Let me blast this oil pan off real quick. I'm not going to film that. Watch any of the other 302 teardown videos for how to do all that. We'll be back when it's done. Okay, oil pan is off, and it is very nice and clean and brand new in here, just like it's supposed to be. Definitely a little bit of residual oil, and I don't know, nothing crazy. For wiping out a cam, I figured it would have been way more metal flaky than this. The screen doesn't really look that bad. There's definitely a little bit of fine metal shavings in here, so let me dig a little further, pop off a rod in the main, see what it looks like. Obviously, I'm going to tear this down. Once I open this up, I'll know exactly what size the bearings are, because I honestly can't remember. I've done so many of these. So let me pop off the end cap and one of the rod bolts, or the rod caps, and check to see what this looks like. Pouring about 30 seconds ago, and now I got some nice sunshine. Just took off the center thrust bearing. Open this up. Take a little look-see. Honestly, this looks really good. I don't have any major gouges. There's a little bit of scuffing on the outside edges here. I mean, this would 100% run. I don't know if that's the route I want to go right now. Maybe not on that one. I don't know. Maybe I'll just order 2 bearing sets, get one to get this thing running and rolling down the road. Can't feel them though. I can see it. Really fine scratch. I mean, you can see the ones that I just did with my nail right now. Crank doesn't look too bad, so I'll keep going on this. So I took the cap off. Like I said, I wiped it down. It's really not that bad. Couple marks here and there. Again, this would work fine if I was going to run it that way. Rod bearing looked the same. However, the issue I'm running into, can't do my flip-flop budget build because these are 10 under. So I have to inspect the rest of them too, obviously. But as of right now, these are 10 under, so 100% I'm going to order a bearing kit and a gasket kit for this motor. Just grab that complete one on Summit. There's a ton of stuff I don't actually need, but I think that'll put me in a better position. If I have extra stuff, that's fine. I can recycle them. Overall, though, I didn't pull the heads or look at the cylinders on here. Based on how the rod bearings look, with how much metal came off of the cam, I'm assuming. Still not there yet. We'll find that out in a later video, but should be okay. I might throw a cam in here, try another one, maybe something a little different. I don't really know exactly yet, but I do have a completely good fresh block, even if I end up having to rebearing this, provided the cylinders look okay. I'm looking at like $80 to replace all of the mains. Cam bearings I'll inspect once I disassemble this further, but that's all I got for tonight because I'm out of time. Got a bunch of errands to run and other things to do, so thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Put it down in the video together, mix all this up, and somehow I'll try and figure out a way to keep 2 motor disassemblies organized at one time. That's what I'm good at, organizing things. Take it easy.